welcome to this edition of Diecast Restos. My name is Jason and this is the Matchbox 26C G.M.C tipper truck. It was introduced to the range in 1968 and converted to Superfast wheels in 1970, before being discontinued in 1971. The cab was always red, the chassis always green, and the tipper body silver. The tipper was also fitted with a tailboard that connected to the top using a hinge, so I've sourced a reproduction part for this restoration. Cast into the chassis was the engine that was revealed by tilting the cab forwards. The cab was also fitted with a green coloured windscreen. There were no variations to this model, aside from minor shade differences, particularly in the red. To me, it seems a bit of an unusual choice for the 1970 Superfast conversion, as the cab and tipper tilt with little resistance. Here's an image of the Chevrolet badged equivalent tilt cab. So there are no rivet posts on this casting, just 4 sets of hinges or axles to remove with my grinding attachment for my rotary tool. I could already tell it may be a 2-person job to hold everything in place while reconstructing the model. The tipper and cab freely move around. It does surprise me that there are no friction blocks to reduce the level of tilt. Once the chassis has been unassembled, I use my modified drill bit to remove the edge of the clamp holding the plastic screen in the roof of the cab. Here are all the parts, with the cab chassis and tipper now going in for paint removal. The cab casting is based on that of the GMC cab over, or more commonly seen from my brief research, branded as a Chevrolet tilt cab that had 20 different models produced between 1960 and 1973. The COE trucks were numbered 40, 50, 60, 70 and 80. The T60 was the first model in the range in 1960, equipped with a gasoline engine. Diesels were first introduced to the series in 1962. In 1973, the vehicles were then restyled. The model shares its cab design with the 26C refrigerator truck, but that didn't have the tilting cab, though it utilised a plastic base that incorporated the grille. I think this model, with its colour scheme, is very toy-like in its appearance. Granted, it is a toy, but many others from the range in 1968 looked very much more realistic. I think it is mostly attributed to the bright colours, in particular the green chassis, which, if black or silver, would look quite different indeed. So now I apply the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer. I've borrowed my safety pin technique from the Royal Tiger coach here, as there were no ideal places to attach to. I used white for the cab, but I think the chassis was light grey. They're fairly similar in certain lights. By the time it came around to spraying the tipper, I'd almost run out of my clamps and grips. I restore a few models at a time in order to not repeat the process so regularly. Next, I clean up the plastic windscreen and wheels in warm, soapy water. Then all the axles are sanded using my drill and sandpaper. The chassis gets a coat of Tamiya TS35 Park Green. The tipper is sprayed in TS30 Silver Leaf, one of my favourite Tamiya shades. The tailgate is attached now, I might also add. And the cabin gets a dose of TS8 Italian Red. I did and ah about painting the cab details and maybe detailing the engine, but I opted to keep it original in the end. The chunky tyres are really good, they roll nicely and with ease, so they get a coat of Citadel. The plastic windscreen is buffed with some Autosol to remove any blemishes. It seems to have a mind of its own whenever I do this. Once polished, it's dunked in Astonish wood floor polish to make it pop. The wheels are put on the axles and onto the chassis. Then I had to borrow my dad to act as a spare pair of hands to reattach the tipper and the cab. I didn't get any footage as it was all fingers and thumbs using metal rods to fit in the narrow gaps and then hammering the opposite side. Anyway, this is the GMC tipper truck as it looked originally. It had bad paintwork on the cab with a dull and slightly cloudy windscreen attached. The chassis was okay, but the tipper was a bit bent and missing its tailgate. The hinge axles were also a bit rusty, but easily restored to a nice shiny new state with a quick sanding. So this is what the tipper truck looks like now. Personally speaking, the axle ends are the first things that pop out to me, closely followed by the bright new paint job. That windscreen is a bit clearer now following a polish, and the tipper is looking better with that silver leaf paint and a new tailgate attached. It's still looking a bit wonky on the tipper, and I'm not sure why. My best assumption is that I've bent that hinge rod when hammering it back into the chassis. The trouble is we had to be very cautious about chipping the paint when reattaching it all to the body, so the bent axle was probably missed. Well, despite that minor aggravation, that is it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.